So there are two types of cell reproduction that cells use. So one type is meiosis, where 4 gametes are produced, and they are all different, and they go through two cycles of mitosis. And then there's somatic cells, which reproduce by mitosis. And so we have mitosis. We have a somatic cell that's right now in its cell cycle. So the cell cycle is split up into 2 parts. It's split up into the interphase and then the mitosis phase, and then eventually cytokinesis. So right now it's an interphase. Interphase is when just the cell is basically functioning like it's supposed to. So there's a G1 phase, which is growth 1. Just cell is growing, becoming bigger. It's becoming a mature cell and just functioning the way it should be. So then there's the synthesis phase, which is when this chromatin in the middle, which is just the unbound DNA, when it reproduces through proteins and DNA polymerase. And so we have double the DNA for 2 copies for the 2 identical daughter cells to inherit. That's the synthesis phase. And then we have the G2 phase, which is just more growth, so growth 2, but it is what prepares the cell for mitosis. So then we go into mitosis. Mitosis, the first stage starts with prophase. And prophase, the centrosomes start to go out to the opposite sides of the cell, and basically this nuclear membrane starts to dissolve. And as the nuclear membrane is dissolving, this DNA is condensing into chromosomes. So it becomes condensed just like this. And of course, when it condenses, it pairs up into its forms. So this is prophase. And then we have metaphase. Metaphase, basically, the chromosomes line up in the middle, just like this. And then we have our spindle fibers that extend from our centrosomes to the middle of the chromosomes. And so these individual chromatids are bound together by the centromeres, which are the middle dots of the chromosomes. And so right here we have the 2 sets being pulled apart. So this is metaphase. Then anaphase comes, and the individual chromatids start moving to opposite sides of the cell, just like this. And the spindle fibers are the ones pulling them. After this, we go, and then that's anaphase right there. So they move to opposite sides. Prophase is when it starts to reverse. Then we have telophase. Telophase starts to reverse what prophase did. So the spindle fibers disappear. What's it called? The chromatids, or the chromosomes, like the DNA starts to unravel again and becomes just chromatin, just like that. And same here. And as this becomes chromatin, we have our nuclear membranes reforming around the chromatin on both sides. So we have nuclear membrane reforming just like this. And the centrosomes are, of course, outside of the cell. So that is telophase. And so then after telophase comes, that's when mitosis is over and cytokinesis starts to happen. So they're at opposite ends of the cell. Cytokinesis is when the cleavage furrow starts to form, just like this. And we have basically when cytokinesis is just the splitting of the 2 cells. And then after cytokinesis, we will have 2 identical daughter cells that will again go into their interphase. So that is the cell cycle for you. One difference between this was shown the animal cell cycle. The one difference between plant cell cycle and animal cell cycle is that the plant cell cycle, instead of cytokinesis, it just a cell plate forms in the middle of the cell and creates the cell wall dividing the 2 cells. This reproduction is asexual reproduction, and it is specifically called as binary fission. And the cell cycle has many controls, like anchorage dependence and density-dependent inhibition. And anchorage dependence basically just relies on the cell being anchored to some surface, while density-dependent inhibition is when if there are too many cells, meaning if the area is too dense, then the cell cycle will stop and it will go into the G0 phase, which is just that the cell cycle will not continue and growth will not occur, but the cell will just function as it's supposed to. But of course, if these cell controls do not happen, then the cells become cancerous and they divide rapidly, and that's where our immune system usually steps in and it programs their cell death, which is called apoptosis. So that is the cell cycle of eukaryotic cell.